In this video, I'm going to speak my mind about two cultural contexts and the way I visualize their business proposition. I'm also going to talk about some aspects in terms of gaming that's going to expose us to some of their business strategies and the perception that we see overall. In the conversation around consoles, we have basically a sandwich type model where Xbox is basically in a position where it's battling in terms of competition against two companies that are Japanese in ownership and in some of their business strategies. Nintendo on one side, PlayStation on the other side. In this particular light, Xbox has basically decided that it's going to take a different, subversive, and even what I think is a much more out-of-the-box strategy that is not the same as the others. And a lot of people have interpreted this to be that Xbox is capitulating and Xbox not doing things the way these two other Japanese companies are doing things makes them inferior. Not realizing that fundamentally, if you look at the way things run, many American firms will take crazy strategic moves, and usually those things kind of, in a sense, play out for them in their favor, or in some sense could help them out, because there's all the talk about it that goes on, and marketing is something that is actually very interesting at the end of the day. I took a peek at Deadly Hadley's Twitter page where he showed that Xbox's VP of Next Generation, Jason Ronald, liked his tweet, and that tweet was talking about Xbox console hardware not being under threat, where he points out the market and all of the YouTube videos out here that constantly Xbox is dead their way into views and all that, and pretty much their own hypotheses that Xbox's hardware is under threat and all that nonsense that they say. And you can tell that a lot of people who are gaining their opinions from these particular videos are for the most part mistaken, because many of them have chosen to close their ears to the reality of what Xbox is doing. Remember when the PS5 Pro was coming out, a lot of people were saying things like, well, Xbox has no hardware, blah, blah, blah. While Xbox actually refreshed its console, added a 2TB model, and also added a different variation of the Series S and X. Do you all remember that? Now, if you had basically taken a look at these people talking without knowing the reality, you would think that truly Xbox had given up on its hardware. Also, these same people even brought their nonsense and nuisance to come to the perspective of concluding somehow that the Activision deal did not pan out, according to that false information article from a website called The Information that brought Xbox out to basically come out and knock them and say, hey, guys, you guys are omitting information and data here. And I think we're in the same place. A lot of these so-called hyper PlayStation fans that would like to see Xbox hardware go away are operating from a place where they're purposefully omitting the reality and the data that's out here. Executives from Xbox have already mentioned talks and plans about their hardware. There have even been rumors about who's going to be making it. AMD is probably the company. And also, there have been talks about the nature of it and even some hypotheses about how things are going to go. In fact, one of the craziest things was that picture of a voice call with Gabe, Jeff Keighley, and Phil Spencer, all in a conversation together in a conference call. Now, as to the nature of that conference call, nobody can tell you the details. However, it doesn't seem like a company that is not going to be doing hardware is making these connections, appearing in all kinds of different forums, and then all of a sudden wants to abandon the console platform. The least likely metric that you can say would be a motivator for them to abandon console is the fact that they have 30 million users using their console. Most of these so-called PlayStation talking heads or even PlayStation fans think that somewhere, somehow, because they don't have 60 million consoles sold or the 100 and something million consoles of the Switch, that means that they're going to leave the console business. They also think that Xbox taking an aggressive route in putting their games on other platforms means that they have given up on their console, not realizing that they're depicting a Japanese company with an American company from a philosophical standpoint. Whereas PlayStation would love to be much more conservative, but it's also put itself in a really interesting place where its competitors are now its partners, unlike Nintendo, who doesn't really have that much competition from its partners because of its hardware skew that filters out a lot of games that are trying to come on their hardware. So at the end of the day, the lie that these people say that these people propagate about Xbox's hardware, I think is something that is wishful thinking for them. What they are, I think, afraid of or adamant about is that Xbox will bring to the table its continued pressure on PlayStation while still maintaining its hardware presence. Even PlayStation doesn't have that much hubris. They admit to even pointing out that Xbox's multi-game delivery strategy is something that is a threat in the industry, where they are no longer sticking with the conservative model of my box versus your box. They can now, according to this Insomniac leak, deliver content 50% subscription, 50% console game, 60% PC. They're everywhere. That's basically what it is. They left the box to go and expand everywhere, but they did not abandon the box. The box is just part of their metric and their market share right now. So yes, they may have, say, 50% compared to PlayStation or whoever in the market share, but at the end of the day, they still have a good chunk of the PC market share, more than PlayStation does, because they do day and date and they have their own Xbox platform. And then at the same time, they have the subscription market share. And that seems to be a very huge threat against PlayStation, because their revenue for Game Pass is actually close to PlayStation Plus's revenue. Even with the higher number of console sales that PlayStation has. Remember when Tweaktown actually showed the leak from the Brazilian Economic Defense Authority, when they actually put out the data while trying to approve the Activision deal? Tweaktown concluded that PlayStation Plus was sitting around $3.9 billion in revenue, or 3.6, while Game Pass had already reached about $3 billion. So even with half the number of console sales, Game Pass is already basically pushing closer and closer to the similar revenue stretch of PlayStation Plus. This is one of the reasons also that PlayStation seemed really distressed in this threat analysis that they did, knowing that the Sony impact was going to provide a massive threat of about $1.5 billion annual revenue gap to fill. Because they looked at their own subscriber counts, they looked at their monthly subscription costs, and they realized that Game Pass was very close. And only by just a few million more subscribers, Game Pass was going to close up to them. And anything more, Game Pass will surpass their subscription, revenue. So anybody dreaming that Xbox hardware is going anywhere, stop lying to yourself. You know that is not the truth, but you continue, wanting to insist on it or make you pretend like that's a thing. I guess because maybe no one has actually taken the time to check you, I'll now make it, part of my content, delivery for you guys, that we talk more about Xbox hardware and the fact that it's here to stay, because they know that it's here to stay. They have a customer base that's profitable, that's basically that Xbox basically hinges on. Why would they want to give it up? Man, get out of here. Thanks for watching the video. Talk to me in the comment section. Hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.